This TV show is made available to provide general information and a general overview of legal principles. Viewers should not rely on the information provided without consulting an attorney who is licensed to provide legal advice. Topics and ideas shared on this show are not to be used as a substitute for legal advice from a licensed attorney in your state.
Welcome to Under Oath with Michelle Bell. I'm your host, Michelle Bell. This is a show where I bring on other attorneys and we give you, the public, legal information. I like to start the show off with a segment I call Jury Duty. And that's where I give you, the audience, a trivia question. Now, the first person to send in the correct answer to the website, your name will be posted up there and you will receive a free gift. The website is www.mbunderoath.com. All right, you ready for the question? Here we go. General Motors was founded in which city? Now send in your answers and stay tuned. We have such a wonderful guest on the show and she's gonna give you like all this information that you really need. Stay tuned.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, and she convinced me to continue my education.
No one receives a diploma alone.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to Under Oath with Michelle Bell. I'm your host, Michelle Bell. So today's guest is Ms. Leticia Smith. She is a mediator and the owner of, now correct me if I'm wrong, LS Legal and Mediation Solutions,
correct.
Right?
That's correct.
Okay, great. So explain to me, how did you get into mediation?
Well, went to law school first. I do a contract work for the Department of Justice. So I just thought that there was some other things that I could do with my legal degree. And mediation is one of those things that helps the legal system to thrive and to help it be less litigious, which is one of my goals. So that's how I got into mediation. I actually was going to apply for a job for a mediator, and that was before I did any training or anything. So I didn't get the job. But I just went for the training, and then they said, oh, you can, work for the court system. They'll put you on the roster. You'll get clients that way. So did the training, the 40-hour basic mediation training, as well as some other training for family law and property. And I'm on the court roster for Anne Arundel County and for Prince George's County and Howard County.
Okay, and that's all located in Maryland, right?
All in Maryland.
Okay, great. So what do you want to tell the public today?
Well, I thought we would just talk generally about what mediation is, because sometimes there's misconceptions about what it is and what the process is. So just what is mediation? What are the benefits of mediation? How it can help save relationships and lower the cost of litigation.
Now, I think that's probably what's going to get people, because it's a lot cheaper than going through the whole entire process of litigating the case in court.
Yes, it is.
So that's great. So now that we've talked about what mediation is, or do you have a different definition for it?
Well, mediation basically, in a nutshell, is just a facilitated conversation between two or more people that are having a dispute or a conflict about something. Usually that conflict is a legal conflict. Usually it's something that you might want to go to court for, or you want to sue someone for, but we can mediate that. It is a safe environment that you can come to. It's confidential, and you can express your feelings and your views without having that kind of adversarial atmosphere.
Okay, now when you say that there's two parties who are having like a legal issue, so let's just say, for example, if you have like in family law, You have
In family law, usually it's a for the mediations that I do generally, it's a lot of family law, and the court automatically orders child custody and visitation. So for divorce, you can go through the divorce process, but if you have children, they automatically give you an order for mediation. You can also mediate property distribution in the divorce as well if you ask the court to do so, or you can also mediate child support section, but they don't automatically order those things. You have to request it.
Okay, now the process of mediation, is it the same for the different topics? So like you have family law, you can do landlord-tenant.
Real estate.
You can do real estate. So mediation process is the same across those different topics?
Generally, the mediation process is the same. So we have private mediations and then we have court-ordered mediations. And then you also have sort of community mediation centers where you can, if you don't want to pay or you don't have the funds to do so, you can try to see if one of the mediation centers in the different counties can help you. So the process is generally the same. You're going to come into a room with a neutral mediator. And you're going to, I'm going to usually give an intro. So I'm telling you up front what mediation is. It's confidential. You are here voluntarily. Mediation is always voluntary, except it's a little bit of a nuance when the court orders it because you're still mandated to go to mediation, but it's still sort of a voluntary process as far as you coming and speaking and being open and honest with the person that you're mediating with. So the process is I usually do the intro and I talk to them about that. I have them sign a consent to mediate. And you do the consent to mediate in the court-ordered mediation. We have to do that as well as usually in the community mediation centers, they want you to sign something as well. There's rules in Maryland that say, kind of dictate what the best practices are. So that's one of the things that they want you to do. Get them to sign a mediation agreement that they're going to mediate, that they were not going to disrespect one another during the mediation. We're going to talk openly, honestly. Everybody's going to be respected. And we're going to, you know, get this hopefully ironed out and get an agreement at the end of the session.
Okay, now they're agreeing to be respectful. Now, does that always happen?
No. No, it does not always happen. A lot of times, well, I shouldn't say a lot of times. Sometimes, maybe like 40% of the time, either they just don't want to talk to one another. They'll tell me, I had one this morning actually, we don't know, they weren't that bad, but they said, well, we don't really communicate. And I could tell that before, you know, before they really started talking. He said, well, we stopped communicating because I thought she was seeing someone else and this and that. So other feelings can come into the process that will cause them to shut down. And so it's one of my jobs is to kind of flush that out of them. Like, why aren't you talking? Can you explain to me? What, you know, what the reasons are. So the other part of the process for
wait a minute. So just to clear up what you were saying about the mediation. So when you have the court-ordered one, when you have the private one, and you have the community center one. So whatever you say in mediation, is that something that is reported back, or how is that handled?
It's not reported back. It is between the two participants, or the more, or two or three or more participants. That is a conversation that is going to stay strictly in the room.
Okay, now when
it's
you
not
have
reported back to anyone.
Well, that's great to know. So when you have the public one, not the court order, well, I guess you can do court order as well. When you have the court order one, the public one, not so much the community one, do the parties have to pay you, or are you paid from another source?
Okay, so it depends on if you're doing court ordered, it depends on what county you're doing the court-ordered mediation in. Some counties, like Montgomery County, they pay the mediator.
Okay.
In Prince George's County, you pay, but it's less money.
So
and
each party has to pay a certain amount, or is there one amount and then the parties
There's
both
one
split
amount that the mediator is paid, and that's a court rule, like the mediator is set to be paid this amount.
Okay.
And then the two participants will split that, in fact, 50-50. So that's basically how it is. And for Anne Arundel County, it's more expensive. But again, you pay the mediator directly, except for in counties where the county pays for it or the county funds it.
Okay. Now, as the mediator, so when you're in there and you're listening to everything that they have to say and what's going on, are you someone that makes a decision? Kind of like when you're in court, you know, you're both arguing and the judge comes at the end and makes their decision. Is it the same thing in mediation?
No, there's no decision made by me in the mediation. I am a neutral party. I'm just there to facilitate the conversation. I'm there to restate points of view, because sometimes when you're at odds with one another, you can't hear what the other person is saying. It's clear, I can understand what they're saying, but the other person is just so jaded that they might not really be listening. So or they might be confused, like, I don't really kind of understand what you're saying. Okay. So I'll restate things to the parties to say, well, I think what he's trying to say is, and I'll say, correct me if I'm wrong. Same thing, the other party, I think what she's trying to say is, correct me if I'm wrong, and usually they say, oh no, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, and then the person usually understands, and we can move forward with, the next topic.
Okay, so how do you get two people that are just, I'm not trying to hear this person, I don't like them, that's why we're here, they get on my last nerve. How do you get them to actually get to a place where they can speak to each other and come with some sort of agreement? Okay. Or is that just not going to happen?
In some cases it doesn't happen, but in most cases it does happen. And what I try to do is, mediation is a voluntary process where you can maintain the power of your life, basically. When you go to court, the judge makes a decision for you. You might not like what that judge says. No matter how great you think your evidence is, that you have the one up on the other person, the judge is going to find in your favor. That might not be the case. And it's from judge to judge. Judges are supposed to be unbiased, but at the same time, they also have their opinions about what is supposed to happen.
And they have discretion.
And discretion in things, right. So if they feel like something that you presented is not worth as much as you think, then they're not going to take that into consideration. And then the other person also may have good points that the judge says, okay, well, I hear both of you guys, and I think I'm going to come to a middle ground, and you might not like anything that the judge says. So I try to explain to them that you maintain your power and you maintain the ability to control your life and your children's life, instead of having the stranger, which the judge essentially is a stranger, decide what's going to happen to you. Your child is going to go to you Monday and then to you Tuesday, when you want your child to be in a more steady environment, rather than being bounced around like that. Generally, judges don't do that, but I was just trying to make the point that you can control it better than and your child, and you guys know each other better than the judge does.
The judge doesn't know you. I know, because I try to explain that to my clients as well. If there's an opportunity for mediation, you have to look at it this way. Mediation, both parties give up something, both parties gain something, but you can decide what that is and come to an agreement.
Exactly.
If you leave it up to the judge, one party wins, one party loses. Judge doesn't know you. All they know is what evidence was presented, what you say, what papers they read. That's about it. They don't know you personally. I don't care how many times you've been in front of that judge.
Absolutely.
So mediation is something that you guys can work together
on. You maintain your control and maintain the power of decision making, basically.
Which is it's great. So it's wonderful if people can actually do mediation, or at least take it serious, or give a good faith effort in it.
Correct.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have some questions that was sent in by the audience.
Okay.
And we call it Office Hours. It's a segment. We're going to play it, and then you're going to answer the questions the best that you can, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Under Oath with Michelle Bell. I'm your host, Michelle Bell. So we're still here with Miss Leticia Smith, and we're learning a lot about mediation. And she is the actual mediator and owner of the LS Legal and Mediation Solutions.
Correct.
All right, so now we're going to go into the segment that's called Office Hours, and this is where we play audio or videos of questions that the audience has sent in.
Okay.
So I believe we have two here for mediation.
Okay.
And we're going to play the first one.
Okay, sounds fun.
Hi, I have a question regarding mediation. I'm concerned about the sensitive information that may come out during mediation and it be used against me. Is what I say during a mediation session confidential?
Cool. Sounds like a great couple of
That
questions.
is a great question. Confidentiality is very important in mediation. It actually is a mandate from the state that the mediator maintain all confidentiality between the parties during the process, as well as the people who are participating in the process have to also maintain that confidentiality with one another.
Okay.
So it cannot be used against you in a court of law. So when you sign the agreement to say you're going to mediate, there's a clause in there that says this is confidential, mandated.
So anything said during that session will not be used.
No, you cannot
in the
bring
court.
those notes. I will be taking notes during the mediation, and that's only for our facilitative process.
Okay.
If you ask me for the notes, I can give you the notes. But I have to destroy the notes a little bit of time after we have the mediation. And I usually generally just use the notes to draft the agreement if there's one that we
Right.
come up with. But it's definitely confidential. You don't have to worry about that. As well as you will not be able to, even if you wanted to, use those notes or anything. You cannot say he said or she said this during mediation and now they don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
The judge will not listen to you.
Okay, great.
So.
We have another question for you. Are you
Okay,
ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Hi, I have a mediation question. I'm an attorney and I'm thinking about expanding my practice into mediation. I've been researching and found that mediation can be an alternative to the expense and stress of full-on litigation. So here's my question. How can I, as a new attorney to the field of mediation, work with other practitioners to use mediation for the benefit of my clients? Thank you.
Okay, another awesome question. I love it when attorneys are looking at using mediation in their practices. The practice of law can be so cutthroat and litigious, and you're in court for months and years, spending thousands of dollars. When you can utilize mediation to the benefit of your client, you will still make money as an attorney. I know that's one of the things that people worry about, but you can still charge your fees, but you help your client to, like I said, keep control of your life, keep control of your decision-making power. The attorneys can work together. That's what negotiations are for. And you can utilize mediation as a form of alternative dispute resolution along with your negotiating skills to get your client to the best resolution that they can come to. And they call that collaborative law. If you hear that nowadays, that's a
what
new
that
term
means.
that's coming out. So collaborative law is awesome. I love it. I think that every attorney should be utilizing that at some point or in some way in their law practice.
Well, that sounds good. That's the end of that segment. Thank you for answering the questions.
You're welcome.
And so to go back to where we were, you were speaking of the public mediation and court order. I'm sorry, court order
The private
mediation.
mediation versus the court order mediation.
Correct. So we
Okay.
did go over court order mediation, right?
Yes.
So let's go over
Talk
the
about
private.
Okay,
Right.
sure. So private mediation, no one's telling you that you have to do anything. It's something that you come to an agreement with another person that you're having a conflict with. Now, the problem is a lot of times I'll get one person to call me and say, I really want to mediate this divorce, or I really want to mediate this workplace dispute, or I really want to mediate, whatever the topic is, real estate, whatever it is.
Right.
Now, some things we could talk about that in a minute. Some things, even by agreement, you have to do a mediation because you signed an agreement saying you would.
Right.
And we could talk about that in a minute. But for private mediation, you have to call the other participant, get their consent to mediate. Make sure that they want to do it too. Because if you call me and they don't want to do it, then you have no mediation.
Right.
So if you want me to call the person too and try to explain it to them what you're trying to do, then I can do that and hopefully come to an agreement to get you guys in the room together. Okay. And of course, payment is you pay the mediator,
right.
By yourself. There's nobody else that's going to foot the bill for you, but it's just a decision that you have to make, privately between the two people or more. Because sometimes mediation is 3 people, 4 people. Sometimes it could be 10 people, families, large families, or communities that might be having a conflict. Can do private mediations as well.
Well, it sounds like it's a great thing because it's cost efficient for the client.
Yes.
The resolution can come with terms that work for all the parties involved.
Right.
There is a compromise to it. It sounds like it.
Right.
Other than, you know, like when you go to court and the judge makes that one decision and somebody's just not going to be happy because they're leaving unhappy.
Right.
But it sounds like it's a great compromise. Okay,
yes,
so
I think so. You'll save money, and that's one of the biggest benefits is that you're going to save money. And I will also say another benefit is that you want to maintain a relationship with someone. If you work with someone, you don't want to, I'm going to file this EEO if I don't have to. Let's try to get this, you know, or I don't want to sue you if I don't have to, or I don't want to have to go to court and drag Johnny through, you know, this whole situation.
I know, it's kind of hard to work with someone after you've sued them.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
That's not going to be the best water cooler conversation with that person in the office.
So maybe try mediation first. And as a matter of fact, my clients, I had a mediation this morning, and they asked me, can we mediate something else, like child support? And some people don't know that you can. You got ordered to mediate the child custody and visitation, but people don't know that you can also order, ask the court to order the child support mediation, as well as if you're getting a divorce, the property distribution. You don't have to have the judge make the decision, even though you're still in the court process.
Oh, really?
So why not do that before you go to court? You can call the mediator and say, hey, we're getting a divorce. We really don't want to contest it. We don't want to go to court. We just want to, you know, you still have to file paperwork in order to get a divorce or whatever, what have you. But you can kind of iron those things out before you go to court, so that you just say, hey, we want to file these papers. This is an agreement we've come up with. We want to file this agreement. And, you know, that's that. We don't want to have to go to hearings and trials and things like that. So try private mediation first before you even file your paperwork in court, because once you do that, the ball is rolling, and some things you can't pull back necessarily.
So if you're the mediator, and let's say the parties are there, you're in the middle of a mediation, and you guys do not come to a resolution, right? And I know that you spoke about you destroy your notes because they cannot use the notes of what was said in mediation in court.
Correct.
Now, what happens if one of them wants to call you, the mediator, as a witness?
No.
Is that possible?
No, it's not. Same thing. It's confidential. It's information that
So
came
even
out.
if they subpoena you?
No, they cannot subpoena me.
Okay.
They cannot subpoena me.
Okay, so you can't testify on anyone's behalf?
Nope.
You can't say, well, Your Honor, this is what was said?
Nope.
Nothing?
Nope, absolutely not.
Can you be in the courtroom during the proceedings? Like, you can't even be...
I know, you know what, honestly, I don't know. I've never had anyone ask me that question before. I don't know. I don't see what the benefit of me being there would be for. Most likely not, because I have no purpose there, because the judge is not going to ask me any questions. If you present some information where you said this happened in mediation, the judge is going to say, well, the other person's attorney is going to say that's inadmissible. And the judge is going to sustain that.
So what happens if there aren't any attorneys? The other sides are representing, I mean, both parties are representing themselves. They're pro se.
But the judge is going to know. The judge will know that he or she is not supposed to take that information into consideration. So it is absolutely, this is a unfathomable, like you will not be able to introduce the notes that you take and or anything that one or the other person says in mediation in the court of law. You cannot use it against them.
Okay.
Because it will, if you do that, then people won't want to mediate.
I mean, I understand that, you know, I get it. You're right.
Right.
They wouldn't want to because they're like, well,
they don't want to.
You know, I get it.
That's what the young lady that asked the question about, well, I'm concerned. So that's one of the concerns why it's confidential and why you can't use the information.
Okay, now what if someone wants to be a mediator? Do they have to go to law school? Do they have to be an attorney? What are the requirements to be a mediator? Just quickly.
Sure. Sure. No, you don't have to go to law school, although a lot of attorneys are mediators. You do not have to go to law school. You just have to have that personality and that skill set, I believe. But you do need to. Now, private mediations, honestly, you do not need any type of credential. You can privately mediate anything. Now, whether you want to do that or not as a consumer, I recommend you not do that. You need to make sure that your mediator has credentials behind them, whether that is a law school, whether that is the 40-hour basic mediation training course that generally you need to be on the court rosters. And Maryland law mandates that they have that training. And then if we're doing property law, if we're mediating a property dispute, or we're mediating a family law dispute or employment law dispute, it should be that your mediator has some experience or knowledge in that topic area. Because otherwise, how can they give you, for instance, when I'm in a mediation, I can give you tips to help the process move along if I know the process that the court's going to use related to that topic.
Okay, well, that sounds great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to go into my favorite segment, which is Plead the Fifth, and then Cheat Sheet.
Okay.
And, you know, we'll give all your information out so people can contact you if they need a mediator.
Okay,
or how to become a mediator.
Okay.
Okay?
Awesome. Great. Thanks
Well,
so
don't
much.
go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes. I mean,
Right.
like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know?
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did you?
Welcome back to Under Oath with Michelle Bell. I'm your host, Michelle Bell. And I'm here with Leticia Smith, mediator. Now, we're going to move into my favorite segment, which is Plead the Fifth. Yes, so I'm going to ask you questions, and you're going to answer them, or you're going to plead the fifth, okay?
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Have you ever fallen asleep in church?
Yes.
Shame on you.
I'm sorry.
If a friend is sitting next to you and they have food on their face, would you lick your finger to wipe it off, or do you lick a napkin and wipe it off their face?
I will take a napkin and wipe it off their face. I wouldn't lick it.
Have you ever cursed at one of your teachers?
Absolutely not.
Oh, look at you, goody two
I'm
shoes.
sorry.
If you found a large amount of money, would you keep it, or would you try to find an owner?
I would probably find an owner because I want people to give me my money back too.
Oh, you are such a goody two
I'm
shoes.
sorry.
All right, fine. How old were you when you had your first kiss?
Plead the fifth.
What? You plead the fifth on that one? Unreal.
I might not want my grandma and my mom to know.
Well, thank you for playing Plead the Fifth with me. So now we're going to go into the segment of Cheat Sheet, and that's where we use legal terms and we explain it in layman's terms. So, what are some tips that you have for the audience about mediation?
Okay, well, in mediation, one of the tips I have is don't call the mediator beforehand and try to give information, because I'm not supposed to know anything beforehand. And I do have sometimes people call me and say, you know, try to give information beforehand about what's going to be talked about in the mediation. That's a no-no.
Okay.
And you don't want that to get back to the other attorney or get back to the judge. Another tip I have is utilize your attorney if you have one. If you're and even if you don't hire an attorney, I would recommend you get a consultation about what's happening in your legal process, so you know what rights you have, because the mediator, even though maybe a licensed attorney, they cannot give you legal advice and mediate your process at the same time. So it's good to get a consultation from an attorney on your legal rights before you go into mediation, or discuss back and forth with your attorney between mediation sessions.
Okay.
Okay, and then the third one is, I know a lot of people don't have a lot of money, and so even though mediation is less expensive than litigation, some people just don't have that money that they, you know, that they need to hire the mediator as well. So if that is the case for you, then you need to look into the community mediation centers. Prince George's County government actually has a Prince George's Community Mediation Center, as well as Anne Arundel County Community Mediation Center. And a lot of times those things are free or either reduced price. So just Google Anne Arundel County, Prince George's County, Howard County, whatever county you live in.
Right, no matter what state and
no matter
county
what state or
in,
county you live in, Google
community
mediation in whatever county, and it should pop up, and you just call them and find out what their process is, And I think that that's a great tip for people who can't afford the normal mediation.
Well, that's great. I mean, that sounds good. That's great information. Well, thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Great. And if anybody has any more questions or want to know more information about mediation, how can they contact you?
Well, they can reach me at my phone number, which is 240-355-5544. You can email me at leticiasmith@lslegalmediation.com.
Okay, and so Leticia Smith, you might spell it out for those of us on podcasts.
Sure, it's LETICIASMITH @lslegalmediation.com.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I thank you, the audience, for tuning into the show. To find out more information and to load up your office hours questions, whether it's by video or email, and also to submit your answer for jury duty, you can go to the website, which is www.mbunderoath.com. See you next time.